welcome to our channel. I'm Regina and I live in Boston.
My name is Bertina and I live in Paris. We're two best friends who share a love of all things book related, and we have our little long distance cozy book chats. So please take a tea, take a coffee, whatever you may, and enjoy the episode. So to start off today, how have you been? What have you been reading? Any books you've recently finished?
So still in a bit of a slump, but not really by choice. Work has just been really crazy this past week. To the point where it's just like, it's kind of affecting my sleep and I'm just constantly tired. And so even though I do try to read a little bit every day, and we'll talk about this a little bit later today, but it's become kind of hard.
Yeah.
There's definitely books that's on my list of trying to read. Currently it's a nonfiction. It's still Conversations About Love, which is very, very good. Highly recommend. But because of like life circumstances, I'm not really sure I'm loving the current chapter that I'm reading. So, but anyways, I digress.
Which one is that?
So it's just been busy and haven't really been reading the chapter. It talks about how to sustain love.
Okay. Oh, that's so beautiful.
And I just finished the bit that was talking about like grief and loss during your romantic relationship.
I really want to read this.
Which is
now.
a bit of a heavy topic. It is very, very good. But anyways, how was your week? What have you read? How's life been on top of just reading?
So this week, I guess last week really picked up in terms of work. So I'm seeing myself have crazy meetings all the time now. So that has affected my reading. The first 2 weeks I was like, this year it's great. I have time to read. I have all the time to do all this stuff. But then this week kind of like, it was a little bit of like reality check. But so far I recently started The Hidden Life of Trees. The Hidden Language of Trees. Okay, I still don't remember the name. It's by Peter something. He's a German.
You're like, is it bees or trees?
No, it's trees. I just forgot if it was Hidden Language of Trees or if it was I think it's okay, anyway. So it's The Hidden Life of Trees, I think, or The Hidden Language of Trees by Peter something. He's a German tree person and he does all these adventures and hikes, and I totally went on his website, super cool. But it seems that you need to know German. You can do English tours as well, but private tour. I digress. Beautifully written. I'm only up to chapter 1 so far. The other book that I started is The Will of the Many. It is very cool. A lot of parallels with Red Rising. By the way, if you guys tuned into last week's episode, Regina mentioned that she was giving me something, which arrived. Yay! Thank you so much. It's a Red Rising slogan.
Red Rising reference.
For all of you who don't know, I love it. It's a very sturdy bag. 10/10 recommend. Anyway.
Yay.
So I've been reading those two books. It's Sunday night here. I am nervous because I haven't finished The Will of the Many, and then I have to go into the work week knowing I haven't finished an epic fantasy, and I am nervous. So that is where I'm at.
That is hard.
Yeah, but that kind of is a very good segue into our topic of the day, which is balancing work and reading. So I guess to start off, we both work corporate jobs, corporate, being a very loose term. So sometimes we've found that it's very difficult, and we've had this conversation many, many times. We find that it's very difficult to balance reading and also, social life with work, with everything that's going on, because, cleaning, vacuuming, all of that stuff. So we thought today's episode would... life stuff, paying bills. So we thought today's episode would address that and, just share how we've kind of been managing it or not managing it. And so, yeah. So I guess with that, Regina, I'm going to throw this to you. What industry are you in? How does a typical work day or work week look like versus like a busy or like a lighter kind of week or day?
So I'm in the legal industry and my work schedule is kind of varied depending on my workload that week, but on a light week it would probably be like 35 what we call billable hours, which is about like 50 hours of working, you know, with like commuting, traveling, and like all the stuff that we cannot bill for. And then, but if it's like a heavier week, it would probably be much more than that. It's not totally uncommon for me to work from maybe like 8:30 or 9 until like 10 p.m. or midnight on weeks that are particularly busy.
So for the
and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, for the layman,
Yeah, go on.
for the layman, billable hours is essentially the work that she can kind of bill to the client, which is what she has to write down, which is not her working hours, because I had to clarify this. I was like, I didn't really understand the concept. I'm like, well, if you work 8 hours a day, is that not 8 billable hours? Apparently not, because for example, if you're, I don't know, like doing e-learning or doing something related to work, but that's not directly attributed to a client, that is not a billable hour, and that does not count. And she has a certain number of hours that she has to meet annually that's under billable hours. So she basically has to meet those billable hours on top of, like, you know, all the other stuff that comes with working, like, I don't know, like making sure, you know, your emails are neatly filed or whatever it may be. So
yeah. Thank you. I think sometimes I forget that it's so hard to explain when you do it yourself, and it becomes second nature. But yes, like Bertina was saying, like billable hours, I try to aim for 8 hours of billable every day, which is kind of the minimum. But depending on the type of day that I'm having, that could mean I have to work 9.5 to 10 hours every day, which is excluding like lunchtime and all of that, lunchtime, dinner, commuting to work, which ends up being
a lot,
like all day. Basically I work all day. That is just like kind of a typical week would be 8 billable hours every day, so 40 hours. And then, as I said, if it's really busy, then it's way more than that, and then would include weekends. But most of the time I try to take 1 full day of the weekend off if I can. Today is that day. I only worked maybe like 4 hours yesterday, Saturday, which isn't too bad, but it's kind of a busy week. So yeah, which anyways, what about you? What field are you in? What's your work schedule?
Yeah.
Maybe also explain like how it's changed, because when you used to work in Canada was a little different versus now in France.
Sure. Yeah, so I've been in banking for a few years, I guess. Back in Canada, I was doing the exact same job as I was in France. But the difference is, I think part of it is work culture, part of it is company culture within here. So in Canada, it was amazing. It was like 8 to 5. Sometimes I would work till 6, and then once you're off, you're off. I could take my dog to the dog park, let her run for like an hour or two. I'd come back, make dinner, and I'd have like 3-4 hours to read, right? So it was amazing, and I didn't appreciate it until I moved here. Dun dun dun, the dark side. So ever since moving here, I finally understand what Regina has been talking about, because she keeps telling me I'm too tired to read, I have no time to read. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you have time to read. And then so here, I think part of it is work culture. I work pretty much from like 8:39 to like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And it's like on the whole time. Whereas in Canada, I felt like you're working, and then, you know, you had some like off time where you could like take a breather. Here it's like meeting, and then it's like, oh, it's 7. And then you still have to walk the dog, and then you still have to, like, you know, cook stuff and, like, you know, do stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really changed my reading schedule, and, you know, just the free time I have. So I've been finding it really difficult to juggle. I do not like being in this situation. I'd rather not empathize with Regina. But I do. So here we are now. Yes.
Yeah. Which actually may be a good time to ask the second question, which is, then what is your reading schedule like? Knowing what, now we know what your work week schedule is kind of like, and on top of that, maybe answer what kind of books that you read and like how that changes depending on how busy you are.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
I think that is very, very interesting.
Yeah, so and feel free to jump in if whatever, but talking weekdays, so depending on how busy I am, I still try to at least read an hour at night or 2 at night if I can. I don't watch that much TV, so my TV time basically gets swept up into reading. Although sometimes it gives me anxiety. I'm like, I kind of want to just watch TV and not do anything, but if I watch TV, I can't read. And then it's just like, what do I do? I read, I'm a very big mood reader, so generally I read literary fiction, I read romance, I read fantasy. What does change a lot is during the work week, I find that I gravitate towards smut a lot. Just because it's like fun, it's fast. You were saying?
I totally get that.
Yeah, it's
I will explain on mine,
Yeah.
but continue.
yeah, and I think it's also okay. This is really dumb, but it's also less daunting in terms of like the page count. Because if I'm reading like an epic fantasy on obviously like on Kindle or on like your phone, the page number is a lot bigger. So it's like, oh, I have like 1,000 pages to read. I mean, the physical copy is probably 700 pages, which a fantasy book is, around there, like an epic fantasy. Like, okay. But the thing is, during the work week, if you only have like an hour to chip away, then it's like I average maybe like 100 pages an hour. So if I'm reading 1 hour a day, then it means it'll take me 5 days to read 500 pages, to which I'm still not done the book. So that really stresses me out. I'm like, I'm still reading this. And personally, I think it takes away from the experience if you split it up so many like different chunks. That's completely my own opinion, but if it's an epic fantasy and if I'm really if I'm really in the world, like I would prefer to read it in like once a day, like maybe 2, right? So I read a lot of smut just simply because they're like 100, 200, 300, 400 max pages, and it's just like, ooh, fun, and then it's like done. A little bit of that.
Yeah.
Not the healthiest, but okay. I do also try to listen to some audiobooks when I'm walking the dog. Audiobooks, usually I do tend to listen to nonfiction, or I listen to Black Dagger Brotherhood, which is a vampire paranormal romance book with a little bit of smut. It's written in the 90s, so you can tell the writing is a little different, the references are very different. It references like MySpace or like MP3 players, which I really appreciate.
Oh my god.
I know, it's like, oh, I love that.
Sorry, my dog has decided.
And one last thing is what I really love about the Black Dagger Brotherhood audiobooks is it's all narrated by this guy called Jim something, so he's a man. And like when it comes to the smut scenes, he does a really good job. like it's
interesting.
Like it's like very like clinical. It's like, oh, he nuzzled da 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 da, and then he da 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 da. It's just so interesting. It's like this like deep manly voice talking about this like paranormal stuff. So anyway, that's me. What do you read?
Funny. So, actually, I had a follow-up question before we move on to me. My follow-up question, which I forgot now that my dog is pacing.
Does she need to go out? Or?
No, she's just curious.
Oh, okay.
It actually was the perfect trigger for me to remember what I was going to say. Is what are your non-negotiables for a week? Like, what are things that you have to do? Like, for example, I know for you it's probably walking Aki, but is there like a duration that it has, like you have to walk Aki? Like, on top of just working, what are the things that exist in your everyday life that you have to do before reading is like third in your priority list, for example?
Okay, that's a fair question. So the usual, cleansing, like, taking makeup off my face and like showering, that stuff, going to the bathroom, stuff like that. Eating dinner, although I am starting to find that if I know that I have a lot of meetings till late, I'll eat dinner like at 5. Like I'll like prepare something and I'll just like eat it at 5 or whatever, so I get that out of the way. It's very much, I'm not necessarily hungry, but I'm just like, I just need to get it out of the way so I have more time at night.
Sure.
I do try to take Aki on longer.
It's like not something you enjoy per
Yeah,
se.
yeah, exactly.
Like it's just something that needs to be done.
Exactly, which is a little sad because I do enjoy like having a nice dinner, but whatever.
Yeah.
I do try to walk Aki a lot because I feel it's really unfair that she's just home sleeping the whole day. So in the mornings, we try to do like 30 minutes to an hour. Usually an hour is either Mondays or Fridays. I just take her to the park and I let her run. Tuesdays to Thursdays tend to be shorter. And then in the evenings, I'll usually walk her for like 45 to like 60, 75 minutes. So that's a good chunk. Okay. So that's why I started listening to audiobooks. Because I feel like I get really anxious when I don't read, which is not necessarily healthy, I don't think. But like I'm just like, I really want to read because I need to relax.
No, I understand that though. No, I totally understand that though. And I think maybe part of the reason why I was asking about this and why we felt like this episode was important is because I know for a lot of people, like reading is something that is optional. But I think for us, it's never really been optional. No. Like for us, it is almost like a life sustenance. Yeah. Almost the same as like eating and
more important than eating.
We need. Yeah, exactly. And then I think it's also, you know, I think this episode is also helpful because people always ask me like, how do you find time to read? Like especially when like my day is all about like I read documents all day. And like this is kind of why like to me it is mandatory. Like it is how I fuel my soul. And it's how I like get out of my head. Which maybe it's like a good time for me to answer the question of like my reading schedule and like my reading.
Before you get into that, one more thing is I'm trying to exercise because if you notice what I've said, none of that includes exercising. So like the thing is if I even squeeze in a 30-minute session of exercising, then it's like, okay, well, I don't have any time. Like if I get off at 7, I exercise for half an hour and I shower, do all of that stuff. That's like 8. I walk the dog for another hour. That's 9. And then like I try to sleep at like 10 or 11 because I wake up at like 6 something. So then it's like stress. Okay, I'm done. Your turn.
No, I totally get that, right? It's just, especially now that it's the new year, you feel the urge to like kind of come up with a better and new routine for this intention that you've set for the year, right? So for me as well, exercise is the first thing to always go.
Okay.
Like I can't do less sleep. I mean, I can do less sleep, but sleep is a pretty big priority for me. Not because I'm particularly like I need sleep, but it's because I don't sleep very well. Like I'm a light sleeper, so I tend to wake up very easily, and I have like very vivid dreams, and so like sleep doesn't just like I need more in quantity because I'm suffering in terms of quality.
But I feel like you don't sleep that much. You sleep really late.
I do. I sleep a lot.
Really?
Like all my colleagues have a tendency to wake up really early.
Okay, what time's early though?
Work out. I'm like, no. They can wake up at like 5 or 6 to go for a 6:30 or 7
I feel like
p.m.
that's
workout,
a North American thing though.
That. So like having worked in Asia and being raised in Asia, working out at night is much more of a thing.
Yes.
I feel like. I could be generalizing and maybe the trends have changed.
I think it's also working hours different. I know in the legal field you guys start pretty late, but back in Canada I started at 8 and sometimes at 7:30 in the morning. And people would exercise before that. But like here it's very different.
No, same. I mean, same for us too.
Which is interesting. Yeah. But
I think it also depends on the department that you're in. Like certain departments might have a tendency to start later, and it just depends on the group. Just it's like relative to your peers and like your small group of colleagues, I suppose. So I would feel like my priority is probably trying to get a good amount of sleep, because I don't sleep super well. My quality of sleep's not great, so I try to settle that with quantity. I do sleep late, relatively on the late side, probably like 11:30 every day, and then I wake up around 7, which, if you think about it, is not that bad. It's like a really good amount of time, but I just wake up a lot throughout the night, and I have really vivid dreams, which kind of destroys this quality of sleep, and I wake up still really tired. Especially when you dream about work. That's the worst.
I don't think I've had that, touch wood.
And then you have to wake up and actually do the work.
I've only done that, I think I've only done that like once or twice maybe, but yeah, okay.
But you have good
sleep
sleep.
like the dead. Yeah.
Like you and Alex are both the
Yeah.
pillow hit like what?
Yeah.
Head hits the pillow when you're
pretty
instantly
much
out like a light. Yeah, so my second priority is probably like my dinner with Alex. Like we have dinner together every weekday if we can, and like during that time it's like no phones, like we're trying to spend time with each other. And then on top of that, it's like probably the pets. Like they're pretty low maintenance, like unlike Aki. I'm not gonna say her name because she'll wake up and come over, but my dog has very, very short fur, and we live in very, very cold climate right now, and so she really hates
You're like,
for
yes,
a long time, even with her coats on. So like there are times where we try to take her out, and then we're like, oh, you know, let's go play, and then she just runs straight like, I need to go home. I'm freezing, you crazy person.
So it's opposite for me. Yeah, so summers are the time when my dog's like, no, I don't want to go. It's like, let's go home. Yeah.
Insert a picture of Aki because she's a sleepy girl.
Yeah, she's like
doesn't
sleeping
really
right
walk
now.
over. I love that. I'm like, insert a picture of Aki, and in my mind I can see you sending me like a million, and so this whole screen is just Aki's.
I will. Yeah, I was gonna say I will send you that. Okay.
Yes, I actually do think it's pretty funny because I'm imagining the photo of
literally
her, like,
doing that.
her face is really smushed, the one you sent me.
She's literally doing that right now. But yes, I will send you that.
And then so those are like my probably like 3 big priorities outside of work, and it's sad, but work is a pretty big priority. Since you mentioned eating, I'll bring that up too. During Tuesday to Thursday, I go into the office and I have lunch with my team, which is really nice. Like it forces me to actually eat because I have a tendency to just skip lunch, which I'm really, really trying hard not to do right now. And then dinner, I'm also really bad at because I'm not very good at preparing and planning ahead for my meals, but trying to do better. In terms of reading during the week, honestly, I don't read at all. Like I try to read nonfiction, and that's probably what I say is like the trend. That's during the week I read nonfiction if I can, because I am a absolute book binger. And Bertina, if I told her that I'm like, oh, I don't read at all, or I sleep really early, she's like, bullshit, because girl, you just don't sleep.
Texts me
and
in the morning at 7.
My guilty
She
pleasure.
texts me like at 7 a.m. her time, going like, I didn't sleep yet. I'm like, what are you doing? And then she's like, the book is not over, it's a series. Or no, it's not a duology. It's a series.
I was so mad about that.
Book of Azrael.
What was the book that I was reading? Oh, Book of Azrael.
It was so funny. I burst out laughing.
So there were 2 books out, and I'm like, yes, Alex did too. I'm like, it's not over. And you know, I was on book 2, and I think I got to 70%.
I was like,
oh no, I feel like this is not ending, but I'm at 70% of a second book, and it's like 5:30 a.m. and I'm like, well, I'm committed. I'm like gonna continue.
I can't.
So that is my thing. So in terms of like types of books, I like read nonfiction during the week if I have the time, or if I can find the time or energy. And then on Friday nights, if I'm not working late, that is where I go crazy
It's like,
reading.
oh.
And I tend to read series, like romance, like fun romance, like funny contemporary romance that's like one standalone, which is really, really great. I love those books because I'm not a huge romance reader, but those books are just such a
It's
good
like a
it's almost like
cleanser.
smut for you, I would believe. Yes, it's like so easy, so fast,
Fun.
low stakes. You leave it and you go like, well, that was good. And that's it. Like there's no ramifications, no consequences.
Although
it's just
recently...
fun. Or I read like a fantasy.
Recently I haven't read any
Go
good, like, contemporary romance books. It's all been a little disappointing and a little, like...
So
I kind of stopped reading
Yeah.
those for a little bit.
yeah. So I actually haven't, I said that, but I haven't actually read a contemporary romance in a while. I think my last one was Yours Truly.
Oh, the Abby
by
Jimenez?
Tessa Bailey, I believe.
Okay.
Oh, actually, you're right. Abby Jimenez is,
Yeah,
That
I
was pretty good.
remember. Okay.
I enjoyed it. It was a fast read. That came out ages ago, so it's been a while. So I think other times I read like romantic fantasy just because it's so fun to escape. It's just so easy to escape into that world. And it's like, it's so captivating that you just forget about the stressors in life and all of that. But you know, the thing is, like, I want to read other types of books. I'm just not mentally in that state.
Mood reader.
Where I
Another
feel like
episode.
I can. Yeah, absolute mood reader. Yes. And so I think that's what I've kind of identified. Last year, work was pretty busy, and so I read a lot of like
nonfiction,
like romantic fantasy and romance series. Yeah, and or nonfiction, because that is like the three types of books I read when I'm trying to like get away from it. And talk about toxic. It's like I was doing that purely to escape, and I knew I was doing it purely to escape, and I know it's not totally good for me, but gotta find the choice in life.
So what would you read if you had the time?
Honestly, I would want to read a lot more literary fiction and maybe sci-fi, actually.
Okay.
Literary fiction, because I think that is where the most beautiful writing is, but it just requires so much emotionally, and it's just kind of...
It's tiring,
requires more than I have.
Yeah, I know
to
what you
give.
mean. Like mentally
That's
and
how it
emotionally.
Yes. There's so many that's on my list. Like, They Both Die at the End, I really, really want to read, but that title alone, I'm like...
Is that by Adam something? Adam De Silva or something?
Not good with the last name. Silvera? Oh my god, great job. Silvera, but like, yes, Adam. Wow. Wait, this is really weird, considering you don't remember contents of books, but you remember the author's name?
I think it's because I've been wanting to read that for a while, but I just never picked it up. That's fine. Certain books I remember.
So that, like, I really want to read, but just haven't. And then I'm looking at my other books. Upgrade by Blake Crouch, speaking of sci-fi, I also really want to read, but just... Like, it's not a book I feel like I would ever want to put down. Sci-fi is also a genre where I can't stop.
And thrillers.
And like you said, if you're reading 100 pages, yes, thrillers, you can't stop. That is the joy of a thriller. It's where you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then, what other books did You got me Ascension, and I still really want to read that.
Oh.
Which I think
Ascension
is still sci-fi.
It's also a little unput-downable. Like, not like super cliffhanger, but it's like, I want to know what happens, kind of,
And then Death of Vivek Oji, I got you that.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
I finally got it for myself.
That you can put it down, but it's also, it requires a lot. Yeah.
Yes. So it's either a book that can't be put down, or a book that is just emotionally...
And mentally,
There's no other way to explain it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So... That's where I'm at. I'm like, I really want to read these books, and I know they're going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
But I just don't have the time or the capacity.
Are you looking to, like,
about
change
you? What kind of
something in your schedule to...
I really want to, but I don't know how as a mood reader.
Yeah, it's hard.
Maybe
like
I can
for me,
try to force myself to do it.
but if you're a mood reader, you can't really do that.
You're like, that's not gonna do well. That's not gonna go well.
Like for me, it's like thrillers, right? I actually quite enjoy thrillers, and I like reading them. My issue is, well, I can't read them Monday to Friday, and weekends, I'm like, if I have like the whole day, I want to read epic fantasy, which kind of answers your question of what would I read. I would read more epic fantasy.
Yeah.
I would read series. I would read Jade City, you know, like time to read. But the issue is, whenever I get to the weekend, I'm like, well, I feel like reading a hidden language of trees, or like something else.
I love that you gravitate towards nonfiction, though. It's good that you gravitate towards nonfiction.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like nonfiction just take me forever if I'm just reading like 50 pages every few days or a few
and then you forget about
like,
what happens.
It's going to take me a year. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like maybe that's why I struggle with that too. Like although I do think nonfictions are good because it's chapter based, like
yes. It depends on how it's structured.
It's a different topic. Right? Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah.
Would you try to
thrillers
change anything? Are you trying to change anything?
So I recently picked up bookbinding, and I bring this up because it's taking up another chunk of my time. I'm just like, I just don't have enough time to do all these things. But it's good. You found a hobby that
you really like.
I know, but I just don't have time to do all these things. What I am trying to change is, I guess, just being more conscious. For me, actually what works is physically writing out the books that I've read. So not just, so I log on, okay, I have a really stupid system where I log on Goodreads and Storygraph and I write it down for every book I finish. But I have a reason for that.
About it, so.
I have a reason for that, and we will get into this in our rating episode because it does make a difference. But writing it down helps me, I think, because I see how many books that I see are good or really good compared to the like number of smut books I've read. And if I get a lot of smut books, because smut books has its own category, I don't really rate them. They just, have their own category.
Yeah.
But if I read a lot of smut books and I don't really have any 5-star reads, then I try to shift my priority or shift my schedule around even. Because I would prefer to have because the joy that a 5-star read gives me, it's much bigger than like meeting up with anyone. And no offense to anyone out there who I've met up with.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, sorry, you can't be beat. Like.
Yeah, like you can't beat Babel. I'm sorry.
I get it.
Babel's Babel. Like. So
yeah.
So like
things like that.
Do
you make me feel like bigger? Like you make me feel like just. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, no,
like
I know what you mean.
My soul is brighter. No, sorry. You don't.
Burn.
Oh my god, I love that so much.
Anyway, I do try to do other things, like, for example, I try to get all my chores out of the way early, so this week what I tried to do is Friday evening, I tried to do my laundry, I changed my sheets, and I did all that on Friday, and I started mopping the floor at 10 p.m. because I was like, okay, if I get this done on Friday, then that's one less thing I need to do on Saturday and Sunday, so I'm trying to start doing that, or trying to do, I don't really do laundry during the weekday, because I'm just, like, lazy, but I'm like, okay, if I do it during the weekday, then I'll have a bunch of stuff to do during the weekend. And also just trying to get everything done earlier. Like, if I know I need to go grocery shopping, I'll try and do it Saturday morning, Sunday morning, so at least I have the rest of the day to just relax and read. Burning candles and all that good stuff. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to.
So is it really just like trying to reprioritize? My cat has decided to join. This is Auntie. Is it really just trying to reprioritize your schedule to like make time for it on the weekend? Like, are you trying to change your reading on a weekday?
I think so, because I think reading on a weekday is very difficult to change. And a big part of that is just because I'm such a big reader. I'm like, well, if I don't feel like it, sorry, I'm not going to read, right? And giving myself, I guess, the space to be okay with not reading if I really don't feel like reading. If I feel like watching a garbage TV show, I'll let myself do that. And giving myself the space to do that, I think. And I think that's part of the reason why this year my reading goals I don't really have. I mean, I do have a reading goal, but not really. So yeah,
it's like a flexible, fun goal.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. What about...
That actually kind of inspired me to, like, maybe on weekends I should just, like, try to read more literary fiction on weekends and, like, I guess try to overcome that mood barrier that I have. Because, like, I guess
for me it's the chores.
Not let the weekday... Oh, for me it's not the chores. Ooh. Interestingly.
Okay.
I guess on weekends it's just like, maybe groceries on weekends is like inevitable because you just can't really do it on a weekday. Oh my gosh, my cat put his tail in my tea.
Oh, gross.
I know. It's okay.
Is it not hot?
No, it's cool now.
Okay.
Yeah. When he was not happy about it, but that's fine. It's his fault.
Yeah, I know. I was like, he did it.
Maybe that makes sense. I will try to do more literary fiction and like maybe like so for a while I tried to do like audiobooks on or reading on the way to work. Yeah. But my commute to work is relatively short and sometimes the train's
it's like 15 minutes, right?
And and I work on the train too. Like I respond to emails and I check my emails. And so that makes it kind of tricky, but maybe I can... I also don't love the choppy nature of like reading, stopping.
So yeah, audiobooks did help me as well. So I think two things, right? So the doing some chores on the Friday evening, I just started this last weekend. I think that did help in terms of mentality because I'm like, oh, I have less to do. I have more. It does feel like I have more time. Yeah. So that's one. Audiobooks also helps a lot because then I don't feel like I'm missing out when I'm taking my dog out for a long walk. I can do my thing, she can do her thing, and we're both happy. Usually with audiobooks, what I do is I have the audiobook, so I borrow them from Libby, the app. So I borrow the audiobook, but I also borrow the book on its own. So what I do is
you have both tandem.
Yeah, I have both in tandem, and so that helps me. Yeah, because then I can like listen to the audiobook because I still prefer reading it. So by the time I come home, I can read a little bit. So then it kind of speeds up, and it feels like I'm getting traction. I'm not always like I don't really know what's happening. But me personally, I can't listen to a lot of books. I can only listen to nonfiction or a book series that I already know the world, I already know the characters, and that's why I keep listening to Black Dagger Brotherhood because I'm very familiar with the world, the characters, what's going on, so that's okay. Yeah. But I have
and tried... low stakes.
Yeah. I guess low stakes, yeah.
I mean, compared to like some books out there.
Yeah, compared to like epic fantasy, yeah. I tried listening to like Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I tried listening to some other books, but just like because I don't know the world, for me I'm not an audio person, so it was too difficult for me to like build the world in my head. But that was it for me.
That makes sense. So, let's wrap up and then we can continue and I can like chop that back in, but because in case people come in. And our endings are always really choppy. So I guess that's kind of given me a lot to think about. And I think it's just kind of like we got to remind ourselves it's like a work in progress and it's never going to be perfect and schedules will always change and routines should be somewhat flexible and we shouldn't feel so guilty about it. Like I think trying not to feel guilty is like a theme.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, yeah. Because that gives you the space.
Let us know. Yeah, for sure. Let us know if you have any tips like about reading during the week or like how you feel about reading the week. If there are like books that you're trying to read more of like we do, let's just all try together and like find a way to get back to like what we enjoy too. Like I feel like sometimes reading too much of the same thing is what causes the slump because there's less variety and less excitement, because you're not really reading everything you want to read.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
do you have any last pointers that you want to add?
Not really. Just explore, right? I used to never like listening to audiobooks because I was like, oh, that's not really reading, but like just being open to it, right? Like if audiobooks are your jam, if like reading physical books, if, you know, ebooks, whatever it may be, just, you know, try to be open and always give yourself space. I think that does help.
I also think like one of the things I wanted to add before we log off is I think part of it is helpful that if you have people in your world, in your life, whether it's virtually or in real life, where you can talk to about books, it's also still kind of inspiring. Like I definitely feel super inspired just texting you all the time about books, or like finding new books, and like it still gives me that like happiness that I'm craving.
Yeah. No, that's true.
It also makes me feel like, oh, I really want to read, and it pushes me to want to read.
Yeah.
But in a good way. It's like in a beautiful, exciting way. And so I think that's still worth something.
Yeah, sometimes even like talking about books, not even reading it, just talking about it gives you some sort of that satisfaction. I definitely agree. Yeah. There's some like book discords out there that are pretty good and like a very safe space where you can share reads. So yeah. So with that, I guess we will end today's episode. We hope we gave you some, you know, not guidelines, I work too much. We gave you some ideas. Food for thought, yes.
Yeah. Or also like comfort if you're like that you're not alone if you're struggling with the same thing.
Yeah.
We're always around if you want to like talk about how struggly it is and how crappy work can be, and how it's just like, why can't I just read as a full-time job?
Oh,
when that
the dream.
Or like have book vacations. Maybe we should make that a thing. Food for thought.
Yes, definitely.